Hi, eighth grade. And we're looking at fossils and the fossil record. We looked at how fossils are formed. We talked a little bit about why we care about them, and that we can learn about our Earth's history by studying fossils. So other things that we can learn by studying fossils are the history of the climate. So if you remember from last year, weather is a snapshot of what's going on in the atmosphere at that location, at that time, and just like one snapshot of a day or an hour, what's going on. Climate is the pattern of weather over a long period of time. And fossils will record that history for us. There's a little clip I want you to watch, a real short little snippet after this video that you're going to take a quick look at how we can use microfossils to study the climate conditions. But we don't even need to go to that length. We can look at and we can see fossilized fish in the deserts of Wyoming. This is a fossilized fish from the Green River Formation about 60 million years ago. And it is living, or it is found in an area that this fish couldn't live in now. I'm going to stop my share here so you can see this a little bigger. You've seen this before, but these are the gray limestone that we have all over Cincinnati. It's called fossil ferrous limestone. It's a Latin word for it's full of fossils, but it is full of fossils of things that lived at the bottom of the ocean. There are snails, there are trilobites, there are brachiopods and crinoids and all sorts of stuff that lived at the bottom of the ocean. This is a horn coral. So it's a coral, so it lives in the water, lived at the bottom of the ocean. But that's found here in Cincinnati. Cincinnati used to be at the bottom of the Ordovician Sea. So we can look at these fossils and we can say, well, the climate here in Cincinnati, I'm getting rock crumbs here. The climate here in Cincinnati has changed because the things that live here have drastically changed. Those organisms, if they still existed, would not be able to survive in the current climate that Cincinnati has. So we can study climate history by looking at the actual fossils themselves. We can also look at fossilized trees and tree rings. So we can study climate history by looking at what we call dendroclimatology, looking at studying trees and the climates, because healthier years for the trees resulted in thicker tree growth rings. And so you can look at a fallen tree, a large tree, and kind of work your way back in history and see when that particular area may have had better growing conditions. And another thing we can look at is we can use the seafloor sediments. We can get what we call core samples and basically gather samples of the silt and sediment and kind of look our way back and see the chemical composition of those shells. And we can study, that's where we're going to be getting those microfossils, and study the temperature of the oceans, how much oxygen would have been in the oceans, what kind of elements are in the shells of those little tiny organisms that settle to the bottom of the ocean. Maybe not completely hardened into solid rock yet, but it's layered in sediments and silt, and we can gather those samples. Very similarly, we can do the same thing with ice cores. So we can take ice core samples and work our way back and look at the different features and the different things we can learn from the different layers of ice over time. So essentially, we're using all the tools we can with all the locations we can to gather as much information we can to have a better understanding of the Earth's history, because the more we can understand what has happened in the past, the more we can make more realistic inferences and expectations of what may happen in the future. So there's going to be a couple assignments. There's a homework form I'm going to have you do, and then also there is what would be a binder page basically to do within OneNote. So if you have any questions, let me know and I will talk to you later. Have a good one.